The Ghosts of Calderstones Park, a Liverpool Christmas Tale, December 2010. The blizzard had settled over Liverpool like a heavy white quilt, smothering street sounds and turning every breath into mist. The city was quiet in that strange, only way winter storms can make it. Lights glowing softly through the flurries, pavements slick with ice, winds whistling around shuttered shops. On that bitter night, the 17th of December 2010, a brother and sister trudged along Smithdown Road, their heads bowed against the snow. Ellie, just 13, tall for her age, but thin as a rail, walked protectively in front of her brother Mikey, only 7, held tightly to her coat, his cheeks red raw, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. They'd been wandering like this for almost an hour, trying to find somewhere, anywhere, that could protect them from the bitter cold now swallowing the city. A year of hardship. The two of them had become ghosts of themselves, living like shadows on Liverpool streets. Their mother had passed away the winter before, a slow and awful illness that had taken the last warmth from their home in Wavertree. Before she died, she begged Ellie to look after Mikey, and Ellie, terrified of being split up, terrified of social services stepping in, kept that promise with everything she had. They had no other family in Liverpool. Their dad had died the night Mikey was born, and their dad's sister and aunt they had never met had moved to America before either child was even old enough to speak. So the streets became their guardian. In 2010, Liverpool wasn't gentle on the homeless. Not in that winter, not with temperatures dropping below freezing. The siblings survived by sheer will and a bit of luck. A local chip shop owner on Picton Road had taken pity on them, slipping them chips and scraps at closing time. They'd stolen clothes and bedding from washing lines in back alleys, feeling guilty but desperate. And they made a home of sorts under an old railway bridge near the disused lines in Wavertree. It wasn't much, a small burrow carved into the corner where the cold wind couldn't quite reach. Once Ellie lit a small fire, it almost felt warm, almost felt safe. But on this night, everything changed. When they reached the bridge after a long day trying to keep moving for heat, Ellie froze. The entrance to the little hideaway was gone. A section of the old tunnel had collapsed, bricks and rubble everywhere, blocking the whole thing off. Their home, their only home they had left, was buried beneath rubble and snow. Ellie knelt in front of the collapse, fingers trembling as he touched the cold brick. "This was all we had," she whispered. Mikey started crying, then the silent kind of cry that hurts worse because he was trying so hard not to. Ellie gathered him into her arms, shielding him from the wind. We'll find somewhere else, Mikey," she whispered. "I promise." But even she didn't believe it. A few hours they wondered again. Their clothes were soaked, their stolen blankets heavy with ice. The wind cut through them like broken glass. They didn't really notice where they were going, just following footpaths and instinct, until the city lights grew distant behind them. Before long, they were standing at the edge of Calderstones Park, its trees black and skeletal against the snowy sky. "We shouldn't be here, El," Mikey shivered. "It's too cold." "I know, but they'll be somewhere. There has to be." Ellie took his hand and led him along one of the dark, winding paths. The blizzard seemed to ease slightly by the time Ellie and Mikey stumbled through the gates of Calderstones Park. Snow clung to the branches in thick white clumps, and the whole place felt frozen in time, silent, eerie, almost waiting. Ellie was about to guide Mikey toward one of the paths when he took their sleeve. "El, look!" Through the swirling snow, a tiny flickering light danced between the trees. At first, Ellie thought it was just a trick of the storm, snow catching a lamp glow, maybe. But the light moved quickly, deliberately, like it was trying to be seen. They watched it hover for a second near a group of dark trunks, then drift deeper inside the park. Mikey took a step after it. "Maybe it's someone with a torch," he whispered. But they both knew it didn't move like a torch. Still, they followed. The light weaved through the trees, always just ahead, leading them down a narrow footpath and past a thicket of frozen shrubs. As the storm eased overhead, the trees seemed to part slightly, giving way to a sight that made Ellie stop in her tracks. There, fenced off by black iron railings, stood the ancient Calderstones yew, the oldest living tree in Liverpool, a twisted giant of gnarled limbs and sagging branches. Its trunk split into deep hollows like old scars. Its bark was the colour of dark wine, smooth in places, knotted in others, and its branches twisted upwards as though frozen mid-gesture. The tree was older than Liverpool itself, over 1,000 years by some accounts. People called it the grandmother tree. It had watched centuries pass. It had outlived kings, wars, plagues, and now it watched 2 homeless children stumble into its shadow. The flickering light rose towards the tree, drifting like a tiny lantern caught in a breeze. It floated up to one of the thick branches, hung there, and then vanished. "Did you see that?" Mikey asked, wide-eyed. Ellie nodded, her breath misting in the cold air. Before she could stop him, Mikey clambered over the protective fence surrounding the tree. "Mikey, get back here!" But he was already standing beneath the massive yew, staring up at its branches. Snow fell softly around him, collecting in his hair. El called. "El!" he called, voice nervous and excited at the same time. "It's gone! The light's gone!" But he stepped closer to the trunk, where the shadows pooled thickly. Then He looked up. Hanging from one of the lower branches, half tangled in needles, was an old battered purse. The leather was cracked, the clasp rusted. It looked like it had been out in the weather for years, like someone had stolen it long ago, then tossed it over the iron fence, never to be found again. Maybe there's money in it, Mikey said. For food. His voice was hopeful, desperate. He jumped to reach it, tucked it free, and held it tight against his chest. Ellie scaled the fence carefully to get him back out. Her hand was numb and stinging. When they were both on the right side again, she took the purse from him. Even through her gloves, she felt something strange, like the purse had warmth of its own. They didn't know it yet, but that purse was the first step toward their entire life changing. A path that would lead them. Ellie took his hand and led him along one of the dark, winding paths. They weren't far into the park when Mikey stopped suddenly, pointing at the ground. "El, look!" Beneath the snow, barely visible, were two thin metal rails, old and rusted tram tracks or railway tracks, long forgotten and overgrown. Ellie brushed away some snow. The rails stretched into a thicket of bushes, disappearing into the darkness. Something about them felt strange, out of place, unmapped, almost hidden. "Let's follow them," she said quietly. They pushed through the bushes, branches scraping their frozen arms. The storm muffled behind them as they stumbled down what felt like a small slope. And then the ground opened up. A huge stone arch yawned ahead of them, a forgotten underground service tunnel, wide and dark, hidden away from the park's usual paths. It was massive, like the mouth of a sleeping giant. "Ellie," Mikey whispered. "This is scary." She squeezed his hand. "Scary's fine. Cold is worse." They stepped inside. The tunnel sheltered them from the wind immediately. It was still freezing, but at least it was dry. Their breaths echoed softly against the curved stone ceilings. The old tracks ran right into the darkness, swallowed by shadow. Ellie tore up one of the blankets and wrapped Mikey in half. They settled down near the wall, trying to block out the chill. But then, somewhere in the dark, a soft glow appeared again. Not bright, just a faint, warm shimmer. "Do you see it?" Mikey whispered. Ellie nodded slowly. A figure emerged from the darkness. A woman in an old nurse's uniform, faded blue, like something from the 1940s or 50s. But there was something else. She seemed to glow just slightly, not in a frightening way, more